Floating Floors, a competitive game where 2 to 4 ninjas will be building floating planks and jumping over them to reach specific locations on the board. I think that the scrolls of your clan has been stolen, several scrolls have been stolen, and so you have to go around and collect them. So for example, this ninja here will need to collect these tokens here, and this other ninja will need to do the same with their own. 2 to 4. And so depending on how many players you have, there's going to be a smaller or larger board that you form randomly using these things and these tiles, and also the number of tokens that you need to collect will change based on that. Players will alternate taking turns, and when it is your turn, you start by rolling these dice. And that indicates the type and number of wooden tokens from the supply here that you must collect, whether you want it or not. And initially, you can just take them from the supply. So a black hexagon, a black triangle, and a white hexagon. That's it. And I add them to my supply. You also start with some tokens already. But later in the game, when the supply runs low, you will have to take them from the board. And this is a balancing game, so there are times where taking stuff from the board is really painful and will force you to make things fall. And basically, when you make something fall, your turn is over for that turn. So if you make something fall at the beginning of your turn when you're collecting your tokens, you effectively skip your turn. Also, when you make something fall, it is the next player who reorganizes things that you messed up, and so they can give themselves a massive advantage or deprive you of the possibility they can make the place where you are completely unmanageable, so you're likely to make things fall the next turn again. So you collect your tokens, and then you take actions. There are 4 possible actions that you take, and you can take them in any order for as long as you want and can. This is important because the first time I played the game, I played it completely wrong, partially wrong. The rulebook says there are 4 actions, you can take them in any order and things like that. And so in my head, that meant you have 4 actions per turn. Like in games like Pandemic, I had just played on the Underground, where you have 4 actions per turn and you can take them in any order. So I assumed that that's what it meant. And playing it that way with 4 actions per turn, the game, and we were 4 players, lasted forever. But I don't think that's how you play it. I think that's really... reading the rule book, it says there are 4 actions and you can just keep taking actions, more than 4 each turn. So for an action, you can place some of these tokens. You can place them on the ground, but they have to be on land, not on water, because otherwise it's weird. Not really, but because, you can usually, people can place things on water. They can build on water. For an action, you can take one of these plank tiles and place it on the board in any orientation, as long as it stands. You can also place those tokens on the board itself, those wooden tokens. So one possible action is to place wooden tokens, another to place planks, another is to move. You move your ninja orthogonally on the planks, and one move at a time, so you have to remove your hand after a move to show that the ninja can stand there. The ninja will move on squares of their color, or they can stand on pieces of their color, so that also is legal. And so, for example, that they can go there, and they can go there. And I built this one very safely, so that's the way it is. But in real, maybe it would not have been so safe, and so I need to navigate without getting too close to that corner there that I know doesn't have support. See if it works. It kind of does. And of course, then this other player will take their turn, and maybe that's what they got there. And so that's how they do it, like so. Remember, you're trying to get to those scrolls there. So And the last action that you can possibly take is indeed to collect one of those scrolls. How do you do it? There we go. So to do so, you need to be adjacent to the scroll itself. So suppose our ninja has traveled there, and has traveled there, and has traveled there, and has traveled there. When you're close, when you're adjacent to a scroll, you see each scroll has arrows. You declare the action of trying to collect the scroll. You pick up the tile that you are on. Sorry, this is the tile fell. You collect the tile and you rotate it by 90 degrees in the direction indicated by the arrows. And you put it down, and if the tile is still standing, you're good. If the tile is not, because maybe that was the case, then that doesn't work. So that's the little extra planning that you need to do to collect the scroll because of that. Because you need to plan to be next to it, and you need to plan for the tile to be still standing and not falling after you rotate it by 90 degrees. You can take your actions, as we said, in any order, and you can also take multiple actions at the same time, and sometimes you really need to do so. You need to place, say, both, you need to place two pieces at the same time so that they don't fall, that sort of thing. The only action that needs to be taken sequentially, one action at a time, and not others at the same time, is to collect the token. So collect some wooden pieces at the beginning of your turn. Again, suppose that here there are no other pieces available. Suppose that there are no other black hexes available, then I need to take it from there. That's an example of taking things at the beginning of the turn, which may be tricky. So collect wooden pieces, and then place wooden pieces, place planks, move your ninja, and possibly collect scrolls in any order, any combination, for as long as you can and want. The first player to collect all of their scrolls wins the game. I like the idea, and I find that the execution, the actual gameplay, is massively influenced by the number of players. With 4 players, and again, mind you, we were playing at just 4 actions per turn, the game took a long time, so, well, don't play it wrong that way. But at 4 players, there was still a problem that even if it didn't take that long, if people could just take as many actions as they wanted, the problem would still exist, which is from time to time you skip your turn. I know it's very unusual in hobby gaming to skip your turn, but it may happen, even hobby gaming in 2024. It may happen because you mess up for your first action, then you skip your turn entirely, and again the situation may be rebuilt by the next player in a way which is terrible for you, so you're likely to skip your next turn again, and maybe forever. Or a lot of those, if indeed they keep rebuilding a horrendous situation. Now, maybe then the player who is rebuilding sooner or later needs to go through that plank also, so they're not so annoying about it. But it can be very confrontational because there's no obligation not to rebuild the tile in an incredibly annoying way. Which also makes me think, if you have at least 3 players, 3 or 4, suppose that player A is about to win. They're next to the winning tile, and they're about to win. Or they're very close. They're very close to the winning tile. They're just missing one color or something like that. Was to prevent player B from using their last action to just mess up with that tile. They just wasted an action. Now player C is rebuilding that tile in a way that is like really impossible to do anything. And now when it comes around to player A doesn't win. Was to prevent people from ganging up against the leader every time, just sacrificing their last action, and then turning the game into a loop. I haven't seen that happening, but I feel that with more than 2 players, that may happen. You may have some gentlewoman's agreement there for people not to do that, but there is no fail-safe within the game. There's no catch-up mechanism. Maybe that's it, but then if that's the catch-up that you're going to do, that's too much of it because the game enters a state of stasis. But I also see no obvious catch-up mechanism. If somebody's ahead with scrolls and you still have to travel the board twice and have to travel it once, they're going to win. With two players, completely different feel because then it's a quick back and forth. There's no advantage in messing things up on purpose, because if I mess up on purpose, well, as the next player is my single opponent, and they're gonna make things annoying for me or advantageous for them. So there you have a full incentive to play your best and not to create annoying situations for the sake of it. Or if you do it, it's in a fair way. Well, I'm placing things here annoyingly, but that may also hit me later. It's part of my turn. I'm not exploiting another person's mistake too much. The back and forth is fun. If I basically skip a turn because I make a mistake early on, it's going to be my turn again in a couple of minutes. The game is quick. If you're ahead and I know you're gonna win, well, that's gonna take 5-10 minutes, so it's not too bad. So all of the problems that I told you about, the higher counts of players, I didn't see those at all at 2 players, where the game was, I think, what it was meant to be. A quick, simple game that is a balancing game and a dexterity game, but with some nice flexible options, with some interesting strategy as you build the board, and then you will navigate. Then it's fun. So I think in my collection, this is going to be a pretty strictly 2-player game. Again, I haven't played it with 3, but I still have this feeling that some of the problems that you have at 4 may show up at 3. But 2, I recommend it without hesitation as a simple, light, fun 2-player game, but I do have reservations about other numbers of players.